The desert didn't scream, it whispered. In the hush between wind gusts and the red dust that settled over forgotten paths, it told stories older than any road sign or map. It was on one of those backroads carved like a faded memory into the Kotu land that Elena's motorcycle began to fail. A warning light blinked amber on the dash, then blinked out entirely. The hum of the engine turned uneven, desperate, like a breath withheld too long. She didn't curse. She didn't panic. She simply slowed the bike, rolled her neck to release the tension, and let the silence swallow her. And then the deer appeared. A flash of hooves. A ripple of movement against the crimson horizon. Elena swerved. The world tipped. The tires lost grip in loose gravel. The bike skidded sideways. For a moment, her body floated, free from gravity, from decisions, from consequences. Then the impact came, hot and sharp. Her helmet hit earth. Metal screamed against rock. She tumbled, bones jolting, shoulders scraping, the sky whirling above like a painted drum. The silence after was louder than the crash. Somewhere far off, a truck horn wailed and a diesel engine groaned as brakes fought gravel. Closer now, too close. But before the darkness could pull her under, she saw him. Boots covered in clay dust. A hand reaching out, not toward her face or her phone, but toward her hand. Firm, steady, grounded, then nothing. She woke to the scent of cedar smoke and old wood. Light filtered through a single window, casting pale golden rectangles across worn pine floors. A quilt lay heavy over her, stitched in old Hopi patterns, sun spirals and eagle feathers, edges frayed from love, not neglect. Somewhere a child laughed, then hushed quickly. Elena turned her head. Pain sang through her left side. She's awake. The voice was small and bright. A little girl, maybe 8 or 9. Daddy, she's up. Boots approached, measured and slow. The man from the road. He stood in the doorway like a painting come to life, shoulders broad, hair braided, with beads of turquoise, a crescent scar cutting through his brow. You're lucky I was fixing fence posts near that bend, he said, voice like warm gravel. Another 10 seconds and that rig would have turned you into road memory. Elena tried to sit. My bike, bent up but fixable. He folded his arms. You're not from around here. No, she admitted. I was passing through. Not anymore. The child stepped beside him, brown eyes wide, hair tied in twin braids. She held a steaming mug with both hands. Chamomile and honey, for the pain. Elena blinked, throat tightening. You made this? The girl nodded proudly. We dry our own flowers. Daddy says medicine lives where love does. For a moment, Elena couldn't speak. She took the cup with trembling fingers and sipped. The warmth traveled deeper than her bones. Later, seated on the porch beneath a crooked wind chime, she watched the man work in silence. His name was Daniel. She learned that when the little girl Lily called to him. He split wood with rhythm, not force. Each movement sure, deliberate, respectful, like he was asking permission from the trees. You always bring strangers home? She asked, half a smile tugging at her lips. Daniel didn't look at her. Just the ones bleeding into the dirt. A long pause. I didn't plan to crash here, she said. No one plans the hard things. That hit harder than she expected. I thought if I kept writing far enough, she murmured, more to herself than him, I'd find something that felt like mine. Daniel set down the axe, finally looked at her. And what does yours look like? She met his eyes. Something quiet, honest, not bought. He nodded once, then turned back to the woodpile. That night, she lay on a thin mattress under a leaking tin roof and couldn't remember the last time someone had looked at her without wanting something. 3 days passed. Elena didn't leave. She helped Lily wash vegetables from their tiny garden, learned to fold blankets the Hopi way, listened to the wind whisper through canyon gaps. In the town nearby Dust Creek, they went unnoticed. Daniel bought feed from a man who didn't ask questions. Lily introduced Elena to the horses, with all the reverence of presenting elders. "Can I tell people your name?" Lily asked softly as they brushed a chestnut mare. Elena hesitated, then nodded. But that night, as Lily slept, Daniel found her standing under the stars, barefoot on red sand. "You're not just a traveler," he said plainly. "No, you've got secrets heavy enough to break your spine." She looked up. "You'll throw me out," he shrugged. "We've all got secrets. Question is, are yours running from pain or looking for healing?" Elena's voice trembled. "Maybe both." Daniel stepped closer. His face, shadowed in moonlight, bore the wear of a man who'd buried love and survived it. "My wife died in childbirth," he said, 9 winters ago. People brought casseroles for 3 days. Then they forgot." Elena's breath caught. "I know what it's like," he continued, "to feel the world doesn't want your grief hanging around too long." Silence fell again, not awkward, not strained, just truthful. Then Daniel said, almost a whisper, "You don't need to. Tell me your name. But if you're staying, don't lie with your eyes." Elena looked at him, and for the first time in years, didn't. On the 5th day, the peace shattered. A sleek black car pulled up the gravel road, the kind that didn't belong here. A woman in heels stepped out, sunglasses reflecting the sun, her mouth tight as a snare. "Elena Morgan," she snapped. "You've got a board meeting in Phoenix tomorrow. Shareholders are panicking." Daniel stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "I see the wilderness hasn't taught you humility," the woman sneered, eyeing the cabin. "Playing pioneer with the natives, cute." Elena's voice was low. "Leave." "I will. After you stop this pathetic charade and come to your damn job." "You mean sell people's souls for quarterly earnings?" "Oh, spare me your moral crisis. You think they care who you play house with out here? You think this place changes anything?" Elena's hand curled into a fist. Daniel stepped forward then, calm but firm. "Your words dishonor this ground. You should go." The woman laughed coldly. "You must be the stray who dragged her in. What a fairy tale." But something in Daniel's eyes made her falter. Without another word, she left. That night, Elena sat by the fire, Lily's head on her lap. Her fingers trembled as they threaded through the child's hair. "I didn't come here to lie," she whispered. "I just didn't know how to be myself anymore." Daniel handed her a worn cloth. Inside was a single feather, painted and old. "It's from my mother," he said. "She used to say healing begins when you stop running." Elena held the feather like it might break. "I'm so tired of running," she said. Daniel sat beside her, not touching, just present. "You can rest here," he said. And in that moment, Elena Morgan, not the CEO, not the runaway, closed her eyes and let herself believe. Maybe healing didn't come in grand gestures. Maybe it was this: firelight, silence, and the slow, brave decision to stay. The wooden floor creaked beneath Elena's feet as she stepped into the heart of the cabin. It smelled of cedar soap and something older, like sun-dried earth after rain, the kind of smell that lingered in coats passed down through generations. A fire snapped gently in the stone hearth, casting a flickering warmth across the room where everything looked worn but clean, patched but loved. Daniel was nowhere in sight. Only Lily, small and barefoot, stood by the window tracing something on the frosted pane with her finger. "I made you tea," the girl said, without turning around. "Papa says it helps people find their breath again." Elena sat slowly, still sore from the crash, still carrying aches older than the bruises. Her helmet sat on the table like a discarded mask, and for the first time in months, she didn't feel like reaching for it. Lily brought her the tea in a thick handmade mug. Elena cupped it in both hands. It smelled of mint and something wild. Maybe sage. Thank you, she said. Lily shrugged. I think you're sad, she said after a moment, watching Alina too closely for a child, but you hide it under that jacket. The silence between them stretched. Alina didn't answer. Couldn't. She stared into the tea until it stilled. Daniel's boots sounded on the porch, and the door opened with a hush of wind. He nodded at her without a word, placed a bundle of firewood by the hearth, and took off his hat. The snow in his hair melted down the collar of his shirt. For a moment, the only sound was the settling of the house and the ticking clock above the mantel. You're lucky, he said at last. That truck missed you by less than a foot. Alina offered a half smile. I'm always lucky, until I'm not. Daniel looked at her, his eyes quiet but sharp. People say things like that when they've been lied to too often, or when they're trying not to say what hurts. She glanced away, toward the coat rack where her leather jacket hung limp, road dust still clinging to it like regret. I should be gone by morning, she said. I don't mean to impose. You're not. But I'm still a stranger. Daniel crouched by the fire, stacking logs in careful order. Strangers don't make Lily smile like that, or fold the towels in the Navajo pattern like my mother used to. Alina blinked. I saw, he said simply. Lily crawled onto the rug with a sketch pad and began drawing a bird with huge outstretched wings. The firelight danced across her curls. I don't know who you are, Daniel continued, still not looking at Alina, but I know who you're not. You're not here to hurt us. Outside, wind pressed against the windows like an old sorrow. Alina held her tea tighter. I had people once, she said, the words falling from her lips before she could catch them. A mother who sang while making breakfast. A brother who used to hide rocks in my boots just to hear me yell. And a man who, she stopped. Daniel looked up. He didn't stay, she finished. Said I was too much of something. Too much ambition. Too much silence. Too much everything. Daniel stood and poured himself coffee, black and bitter. Sometimes people leave because they can't face their own lack, but they call it yours, so it feels less like cowardice. That silenced them both. Lily looked up. My mama left too. Papa doesn't talk about it, but I saw him crying once. In the barn, I wasn't supposed to. Alina reached across the table and took the girl's hand. You're brave to say that out loud. I think when people love someone, Lily sighed, tilting her head, they always want to come back, even if they don't. Daniel cleared his throat and turned to the window. After dinner beans, cornbread, and roasted squash they had grown themselves, Alina offered to wash the dishes. You don't have to, Daniel said, already reaching for the sink. I want to, she answered. Her hands needed something to do. She stood there at the sink, sleeves rolled to her elbows, steam rising around her like memory. Her fingertips found cracks in the plates and gentle wear on the wooden spoons. Everything here told a story of usefulness, of people choosing to fix what could be mended. Not like her world, where the moment something stopped working, it was replaced without thought. Daniel watched her a moment, then pulled a wooden box from the corner shelf. He set it on the table and opened it slowly. Inside lay a collection of arrowheads, feathers, and old black and white photos. My mother's, he said. She kept pieces of the past so she wouldn't forget where we come from. Alina turned, drying her hands on a linen towel. He held up a photo, a young woman in braids, smiling beside a truck. She died on a Monday, Daniel said, voice low. And the world kept going like it hadn't just lost something holy. There was a pause. I know what that feels like, Alina said. To lose something sacred and pretend you didn't, because the world won't stop for your grief. They looked at each other, then two people worn thin by different storms, but weathered just the same. From outside came the sound of an engine, then a knock on the door. Daniel opened it to find Martin Cray, in his city boots and expensive coat, face pinched against the wind. "Evening," Martin said, too politely. "I heard someone new was staying here." Daniel's body stiffened. "That's not your concern." Martin's gaze slid past him, locking on Elena. "You look familiar," he said, eyes narrowing. "You been on the news?" "I have one of those faces," Elena replied coolly. "Or maybe I've seen you in a different kind of article." His smile was thin, the kind of smile that said he enjoyed knowing something others didn't. "Your little guest here's got secrets, Daniel. Folks don't just crash in towns like ours without a reason." Daniel's voice dropped, steely. "We don't judge people on hearsay." Martin stepped back. "Sure, but if she brings trouble here, it won't be on my hands." He tipped his hat mockingly and walked off. When the door closed, the silence returned, heavier than before. "I'm sorry," Elena said, barely above a whisper. "For..." "What?" Daniel asked. "For bringing ghosts with me." He shook his head. "We've all got ghosts. But around here, we don't let them starve. We set a place at the table and learn to live with them." Lily came to the table with her drawing. "It's a phoenix," she said. "They burn but come back stronger." Daniel looked at the paper. Smart bird. He looked at Elena again, this time differently, like he was beginning to see past the smoke and the shadows. That night, before bed, Lily left a small feather on Elena's pillow. "For your pocket," she said, "so you remember where you're safe." Elena held it in her hand long after the cabin went quiet, long after the fire had dimmed to embers. And for the first time in years, she slept without dreams chasing her. The light of early morning filtered through the faded lace curtains of Daniel's kitchen, casting ghost-like patterns on the wooden table where a chipped coffee mug steamed gently. Outside, the land stretched wide and quiet, red earth cradled in the arms of scrub pine and sleeping hills. In that hush, the only sounds were the ticking of an old wall clock and the soft clink of a spoon against ceramic. Elena sat with her hands wrapped around the mug, not for warmth but as though grounding herself. She wore one of Daniel's flannel shirts over her own clothes, the sleeves rolled and stiff with old starch. Her hair, still damp from the wash basin, fell in loose waves over her shoulders. There was a quiet beauty to her in that moment, uncombed, unguarded, and watching the steam rise like smoke signals from a life she was trying to understand. Daniel moved slowly about the kitchen, frying eggs in a cast-iron skillet so black it looked like a relic from the Dust Bowl. He didn't speak, not yet. They had fallen into a rhythm over the past few days, careful, wordless. He watched her when she wasn't looking. Not like a man watching a woman, but like someone looking at a map and wondering which roads were true and which were drawn by liars. She broke the silence first. "My father used to make eggs like this," she said softly. "Overcooked, full of salt, swore it was the only way to keep a body upright." Daniel let the spatula rest. "He's still around?" "No," she replied. Then, after a beat, "And yes, depends how you define around. His name's on buildings and conference halls. But the man I knew died long before his body did." Daniel didn't press. He knew better than most what it meant to carry ghosts. Lily shuffled into the room with bed hair and sleepy eyes, her small fingers rubbing at the corners of her face. She climbed onto a chair beside Elena and leaned her head against her shoulder without a word. "She likes you," Daniel said, not unkindly, but with something behind it. A warning? A question? Elena rested her cheek against Lily's head. "I like her too." There was an ache in her voice that didn't belong to the moment, and Daniel caught it. "You ever have children?" She stiffened almost imperceptibly. "No, W.S. in single quotes to dot wasn't in the schedule." Daniel arched a brow but said nothing. He handed Lily a plate and poured another cup of coffee, setting it down in front of Elena. She didn't thank him. That, too, had become part of their rhythm. Later that morning, Daniel found her in the barn, standing beside the broken gate he'd been meaning to fix for weeks. She held a hammer rung like someone who'd watched a video about hammers, but never used one. You planning to rebuild the whole thing or just threaten it to death? He asked. She looked up and laughed, surprised. I thought I'd try to be useful. He joined her, showed her the grip. Their hands touched, just briefly. She didn't pull away. As they worked, side by side, he began to sense something behind her silence, something old, not quite buried. There were moments when her shoulders tensed at the sound of tires on gravel, when she looked at her phone like it might explode, when she flinched at kindness, as though it were a trap. At one point, she set the hammer down and sat on the hay. Bale, arms braced on her knees. Can I ask you something? She said, not looking at him. You can. Do you think people can change who they are, or only what they show? Daniel sat on the ground, back against a support beam. Both, but not all at once. Sometimes it takes losing everything to know what was ever worth keeping. Her eyes glistened. I walked away from a world that was all mine, money, power, name. And still, I don't think I ever owned a damn thing. He said nothing, just waited. She pulled something from her jacket, a phone so slim and sleek it looked out of place in the dust and straw. She turned it over in her hands like a confession. There are people looking for me, not because they're worried, but because I'm worth billions and off script. I was supposed to be at a merger meeting in Singapore yesterday. Instead, I'm here, with a girl who drew me a picture of a chicken wearing glasses and a man who doesn't ask questions. Daniel looked at the phone, then at her. Why did you tell me this now? Because I don't want to lie anymore. And because I think you deserve to know when someone's about to bring trouble to your door. He nodded slowly, picking up a loose nail and rolling it between his fingers. I already knew, he said quietly. Her head snapped up. What? I didn't know your name, but I've seen people who are running. Not from danger, those run wild. You've been running from yourself. Elena pressed a hand to her mouth. Her voice was barely a whisper. I thought I could disappear into this place, into your lives, but I'm not built for it. I've got steel in my blood and fire in my head, and I don't know how to be this. Daniel stood and offered her a hand. Then don't try to be. Just be honest. That's more than most people manage in a lifetime. She took his hand and rose. Their eyes held for a long moment. You're not angry? She asked, disbelief shadowing her voice. He hesitated. Not yet. But if my daughter cries because you vanish in the night, I'll move heaven and red rock to find you. Her smile broke like dawn, relieved, sad, real. That evening, a truck rolled into the property just as the sun dipped low and red across the mesas. Dust trailed behind like a bad omen. Daniel stepped out, shotgun in hand, not raised but ready. The man who got out wore a tailored suit that had never met dirt. He carried himself like a man who owned things, people, places, futures. Evening, he said crisply. I'm looking for Elena Morgan. Or shall I say Alexandra Sterling? Daniel's grip tightened. Not sure you've got the right place. The man's smile was brittle. We both know I do. I'm Preston Halley, acting interim chair of Morgan Tech, and I have legal cause to reclaim what she's currently endangering. Inside the house, Elena watched from the window. Her face pale, her hands trembling. Preston raised his voice. You think hiding here changes anything? You think letting some child draw you crayon portraits makes you human again? It doesn't. Elena stepped outside. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned. Leave, or what? He sneered. You'll charm another carpenter? Read bedtime stories until your guilt disappears? Daniel stepped between them. You're done here, he said. She's under my roof now, Preston laughed. Oh, how noble. Tell me, did she mention the shareholders losing millions while she played house with you and your brat? Elena flinched. Lily, standing by the door, heard every word. Daniel didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He just said, "Get off my land." And Preston did. That night, Alina sat on the porch, arms wrapped around herself. "I never meant for Lily to hear that," she said. Daniel handed her a blanket. "She hears worse at school. Children know what's real before we do." There was silence. Then, "She called me Mama today, by accident." Daniel looked up. "And how did that feel?" "Like breaking and healing at the same time." She turned to him, eyes red-rimmed. "I don't want to be a ghost anymore." He didn't speak, just reached over and placed a hand on hers. And in the dark, among the crickets and stars, neither of them let go. The sun over the mesa was gentler that morning, casting long shadows to the cottonwoods lining the edge of town. It was the kind of light that held its breath, as if the earth itself was waiting. In the quiet kitchen of Daniel Walker's home, the scent of warm cedar mingled with Lily's laughter. Alina, still bandaged along one shoulder, poured coffee into chipped ceramic mugs, each one painted with Navajo symbols faded from years of use. "She's smiling again," Rosa had whispered the day before, after dropping off warm fry bread. "That little girl hasn't laughed like that since her mother passed." But healing has a fragile skin. And in Copper Rock, a town that had known silence, storms, and too many funerals, the sight of a stranger smiling beneath Daniel Walker's roof stirred something old and bitter in certain hearts. By noon, the first whisper took form at the trading post. "She wears leather but speaks like she's walked boardrooms," Gloria Simmons murmured to Sheriff Dale, her voice low but sharp. "And that ring, did you see that? Diamonds don't just show up on drifters." Dale frowned. "Daniel's got sense. He wouldn't keep someone like that here unless he trusted her." Gloria clicked her tongue. "Trust is cheap. Reputation isn't." By the next morning, Lily came home from school with a tear-streaked face and dirt on her knees. "Raylan said I was lying," she said through hiccups. "He said I don't have a real family. That we're all pretending." Daniel knelt beside her, cupping her face in his hands. "You have more truth in your pinky than he's got in his whole chest," he said softly. But the anger in his gut coiled tight. That night, at the community center's potluck, silence met Elena like a cold wind. Conversations quieted when she entered. Old friends of Daniel looked away. Some, like Mrs. Cray, pulled their pies closer, as if the presence of a stranger might spoil them. Elena stood still, tray of roasted corn in her hands, the heat from it barely warming her fingers. "It's best you don't come," Gloria finally sighed, stepping forward in her pressed turquoise blouse, every thread rigid with judgment. "Not until folks figure out who you really are." Daniel's voice broke the quiet. "She's someone who saved my daughter's laughter. Is that not enough?" Gloria didn't flinch. "It's not about the child, Daniel. It's about truth. You of all people know that." And with that, Elena turned quietly, her boots brushing the worn floorboards like a final exhale. Daniel followed her out into the dusky light, his heart pounding with a confusion he didn't want to admit. They sat on the tailgate of his truck. Beneath the fading sky, cicadas hummed low. The hush between them was different this time, not comfortable, not shared. "You knew it would come," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't want to believe it would," Daniel replied. "Not here, not after everything." Elena looked down at her hands, elegant but strong, once meant for signing contracts and shaking hands with presidents, now stained with earth and grease. "I should have told you," she said, "from the start, but I was tired of being someone whose life was made of headlines and forecasts. I wanted to know if I could be looked at without a title." Daniel didn't answer. The wind tugged gently at her hair. "When my mother died," he said after a pause, "the town brought casseroles and prayers. But the next week, they brought silence. They didn't know what to do with a man grieving in a woman's world. So they did nothing. And I learned how fast kindness can vanish when people feel uncomfortable. Alina turned toward him. And now I've made you uncomfortable. His jaw tensed. No, you made me hopeful. That's worse. A beat, then another. He looked at her, eyes full of something raw. Tell me one thing, Elena. Just one thing that's real. Not numbers, not what you built, but you. She hesitated. Then, when I was 10, I used to sneak into the tech shed behind my grandfather's sheep pens. I'd take apart old radios and rewire them to talk to each other across the corral. I told myself I'd build a way to keep people connected, so they'd never feel alone like I did. Her voice trembled. And now, I can't even hold one person's trust in my hands without it breaking. Daniel closed his eyes. The next morning, Lily placed a smooth river stone onto Elena's pillow, a child's offering. It had the word "stay" written in crayon across its surface. But by the time Elena woke, the town had changed again. Veronica Steele had arrived. Tall, gleaming in her polished heels, she walked into the cafe like she owned every coffee bean inside. Within an hour, she'd met with Dale, visited the town records, and made sure to drop a single phrase to every ear willing to listen. She's not a traveler. She's Alexandra Morgan, billionaire runaway. The word billionaire cracked the town's pride like a rock through glass. She's here to buy us, someone said. She's scouting for a resort, said another. Daniel's just a ... story, like all of us. That evening, Gloria stood outside Daniel's home, flanked by Martin Cray and Sheriff Dale. We're not saying she's dangerous, Gloria said. Just that ... she's not one of us. Daniel's face was unreadable. She fixed our broken heater with a piece of copper and string. Helped Rosa's boy learn fractions with tire sizes. She sits with Lily during thunderstorms. I don't care what the papers say. That's someone I'd call neighbor. But Gloria only tightened her shawl. Then you'll stand with her. And not with us. The door shut in their faces. Inside, Daniel leaned against the kitchen counter, hands shaking. I don't want to lose what we have, Alina said quietly. But I can't pretend anymore. If I stay, it has to be as all of me. Daniel looked at her then, really looked. I don't need you to pretend, he said. I just need you not to run. Elena nodded, her throat tight. Then I'll stay, even if it's hard. Especially if it's hard. Later that night, as Daniel sat on the porch watching the stars blink open, Sarah came by with a jar of plum preserves. She didn't say much, just placed it gently beside him and looked out toward the ridgeline. She's not what they say, Sarah murmured. I know, Daniel said. She's what you say. And that's enough for me. Then she pressed his shoulder once and left, and for the first time in days, the wind felt warmer. Inside, Lily traced her finger over the crayon letters on the stone and whispered, She stayed, Daddy. Daniel picked up the stone, held it in his palm. Yes, he said. She did. The morning began with birdsong and the smell of cedar smoke. Daniel stepped outside, his flannel shirt catching the wind like a memory. Across the valley, the buttes stood solemn, like ancestors watching. Lily's laughter drifted from the barn, where Alina was helping brush down the pony they'd rescued 2 weeks ago. It was for a moment exactly the kind of peace Daniel had long stopped believing in. He tightened his grip around the mug. Something in him still couldn't settle. By mid-morning, Sarah brought fresh bread from the cafe. Rosa dropped by with a woven pouch of herbs for the baby cough Lily had. There was community again. It felt like healing, slow and ancient. But then the quiet broke. It started with a sounder. Truck engine too polished for these parts. Tires too new for Navajo clay. Then came a man in a suit. Too clean. Too certain. Preston Howell. He stepped out like he owned the land, brushing the red dust off his pants with a look of offended distaste. His eyes scanned the homestead, landing on Elena, who had just emerged from the barn with Lily holding her hand. "Elena." "Morgan," he said, loud enough for the crows to stop mid-call. "Or should I say, CEO Sterling of Morgantech. Hiding among the help I see." The world shifted. Lily looked up at Elena, confused. Daniel stepped forward, his body shielding. Both of them, not yet knowing why. "Who the hell are you?" Daniel's voice was gravel. Preston didn't flinch. He smiled, a razor-thin slice of corporate condescension. "Her business partner. Her future, or what's left of it. The board sent me to retrieve her. This little vacation, it's over." Elena's face, usually so composed, faltered. The lines of her jaw loosened. Her eyes met Daniel's, but he was already stepping back. "You lied," he said. Not an accusation, more like an old prayer shattered. "You came here saying you were no one, and all this time." "I didn't come to lie," she whispered. "I came to disappear." "Same thing," he said. And it hurt more than he thought it would. Lily looked from one to the other. "Daddy, she's not who she said." Daniel couldn't speak, but Preston could. "You really had them fooled, didn't you, Elena? Sweet little Navajo town. Poor single father. A perfect PR stunt. You almost had me impressed." "Shut up," she said softly, but it was a different voice now. Not the one that sang lullabies to Lily, or spoke of stars and engines and wooden tools. This voice had steel in it, the old self awakened. "Go inside, Lily," Daniel said, his voice tight. "No," the girl whispered. "She's not bad. I said go." Elena bent down, looking Lily in the eye. "I did lie about my name, but not about who I wanted to be here. That was real." "You were real." Tears rimmed the girl's eyes. But she walked inside, shoulders hunched. Not out of fear, but heartbreak. Daniel watched her go before turning to Elena. "So what were we?" he asked, softly. "Something I didn't know I was allowed to want. That's not an answer." "No," she said, her voice breaking, "but it's the truth." Preston checked his watch with theatrical boredom. "Touching, really, but the press is coming." In fact, as if on cue, a black SUV pulled in. A camera crew climbed out, lenses glinting. Preston smirked. "Told them this would be a human interest goldmine. Billionaire disguised as a nobody found in a Navajo barn. It'll trend by lunchtime." Elena turned to him, something rising in her. "Not fear, fury. You just made a mistake," she said. "Oh?" he scoffed. "You thought this was about me." She walked toward the camera crew, not hiding, not explaining, just ... Standing there, dust in her hair, boots worn from real labor. "Turn those off," she said, "or you'll be trespassing on sovereign land." The lead cameraman hesitated. She pointed to the edge of the homestead where an old sign read Dine Nation Territory, private land by treaty. Preston turned pale. She continued, voice steady now. "I came here, not to run from responsibility, but to remember why I took it in the first place. And you're right, Preston. I am Elena Morgan. I own more patents than you can pronounce. But what I've found here, what you'll never understand, is worth more than any merger. You're jeopardizing your position. I'm reclaiming it." And then quietly, she turned back to Daniel. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said, her voice trembling now. "I know what it looks like. But you need to know this place saved me, you and Lily. You gave me something I haven't had since my mother died. A home I didn't come here to take. I came here hoping the silence would tell me who I was. And it did." He didn't answer right away. Just looked at her with an ache so old, it no longer bled. Then, "My father used to say, the people you don't trust usually give you a reason. The ones you do, they'll break you quieter." She swallowed hard. "I leave," she said, "if that's what you want." But before she could turn, Lily ran out of the house. She held something in her hands. Elena's leather notebook, the one she carried everywhere. It had fallen off her saddlebag days ago. Inside were sketches of the barn, of Daniel fixing a beam, of Lily holding wildflowers, pages and pages of them. "Is this real?" Lily asked, holding it up. Elena knelt. "Yes, every line." The child nodded once, then placed the book in Daniel's hands. He opened to a page near the center. There, in Elena's script, was written, "They say healing comes from the land, but I think it also comes from being seen and not sent away." The silence returned, heavy like mist. Daniel looked at Elena. For a moment, he saw not the CEO, not the liar, just a woman dust-covered, broken-hearted, afraid. And beneath it all, someone who had tried, in her own clumsy way, to belong. "You're not forgiven," he said. She nodded, tears rising. "I know, but you're not banished either." He walked past her, into the house. She stayed there, rooted in place, breathing like someone had just come back from drowning. Behind her, Preston fumed. "Are you seriously staying with them?" Elena didn't look at him, just spoke almost to herself. "I'd rather be hated here for the truth than loved out there for a lie." And with that, she followed the girl inside, where the coffee was still warm, and something like forgiveness waited quietly in the corner, not yet ready to speak, but no longer hiding either. The morning sun rose pale and uncertain over the red clay hills, casting long shadows across the porch where Daniel stood, coffee cooling untouched in his hand. He hadn't slept much. The house was quiet, too quiet, without Elena's quiet humming in the kitchen, or Lily's excited chatter about Miss Ellie's stories from the road. All that had gone, like a dream you wake from too soon. In town it was worse. Whispers didn't need a voice to travel. They clung to Daniel's boots as he stepped into Sarah's cafe, followed him down Main Street, and echoed off the windows of shops where folks used to greet him by name. Can't believe he brought a stranger into his house. She fooled them both. Probably never cared about that little girl either. All that money, and she played them like fiddles. Daniel didn't answer. He didn't defend Elena, and that silence, his silence, was enough for the town to pass judgment on all three of them. Lily came home from school with red-rimmed eyes and muddy knees. She dropped her backpack and stood in the doorway, clutching the stuffed rabbit Elena had sewn a patch on. "Raylan pushed me," she whispered. "Said my mommy was a liar." Daniel bent down, brushing the dirt from her elbows. "She's not your mommy," he said gently. "But she feels like one," Lily whispered. That broke something in him. The letter came in a plain envelope, hand-delivered by Martin Cray and his assistant from the regional bank. Martin didn't take his sunglasses off when he stepped onto the porch. His tone was clipped, bureaucratic. "We've reviewed the outstanding balance on the land title. The repayment plan your wife set up before her passing has defaulted. That arrangement is no longer valid." Daniel folded the letter without reading it. "How long?" Martin's assistant answered. 28 days before foreclosure action begins. If you can't resolve it, we'll begin asset reclamation, including the land." Martin finally looked him in the eye. "I'd suggest you start packing." There was a silence. The only sound was the wind pressing against the old screen door, like it wanted to come inside and listen too. "You ever lost anything that meant more than your name?" Daniel asked. Martin blinked. "Excuse me?" "Never mind," Daniel said, and closed the door in his face. Elena had tried calling. Once, her name flashed on his phone like a flare in the night. He didn't answer. Later, a small package arrived. Inside was a file folder marked Legal Alternatives for Daniel, and a note in Elena's handwriting. "This isn't charity. It's responsibility. I'm sorry I couldn't stop what's coming." He left it unopened on the counter. For 3 days, at the weekly tribal council meeting, held beneath the awning of the old community center, Daniel stood in the back while the elders discussed zoning laws and water access. No one invited him to speak. When he finally stepped forward, voices quieted, some out of respect, most out of suspicion. "I want to ask that the council delay any development permits in the Western Canyon," he said. "That land's been my family's since the Treaty of 47. A cough broke the silence. Gloria Simmons, seated nearest the front, didn't look at him when she said, "You want to protect land your daughter might not even be able to live on come next month?" Someone chuckled. Daniel swallowed. "It's not about, you brought her into this town," Gloria snapped. "That woman. She came here pretending. And now the media's camped outside Sarah's cafe. The kids are afraid. And my son got questioned by a reporter about our community's politics." "She didn't ask to be hunted," Daniel said low. Gloria turned fully toward him then. "She didn't ask, but she didn't stop it either. People like her, they don't walk away from the world they built. They just visit ours for fun." Daniel looked around the room. He saw neighbors he'd shared tools with, built porches for, fixed engines and fences and broken hearts. "Y'all forget mighty quick who you are when a little fear comes knocking," he said. That night Lily sat on the porch steps, tracing her finger in the dust. "Daddy," she said, "why do people get mean when they're scared?" Daniel exhaled slowly. "Because it's easier to push someone away than admit you're lost too." She leaned into him. "I miss her." "Me too." The wind came in hard the next morning. It knocked over the flower pots Alina had set by the kitchen window and peeled back a shingle on the roof Daniel had meant to fix. He found himself standing in the middle of the kitchen, just staring at the coffee pot. He hadn't brewed a pot since she left. He did now. The smell brought something back. Not her. Not really. But the echo of her voice, laughing at his bad jokes, correcting Lily's spelling, teaching her how to pronounce algorithm. He walked outside, coffee in hand, and looked out over the canyon ridge. A buzzard circled overhead. And he remembered. Her fingers had brushed his once, right there on that ridge, just barely. She'd said, "Some things feel more honest in silence." He'd nodded then, not realizing it was her way of asking, "Can I stay?" Sarah knocked on the door just past noon. She held a pie in one hand and the local newspaper in the other. She handed both to Daniel without a word. He unfolded the paper. There, under a grainy photo of Alina walking with Lily past the trading post, was the headline, "Billionaire's desert fantasy costs town its soul." Underneath it, was it love or a publicity stunt? He read the article once. Then again. When he looked up, Sarah was watching him like she used to when he was 10 and scraped his knees climbing the mesa. "Don't let him take her away from you too," she said. Daniel's voice cracked. "What if I already did?" Sarah set the pie down. "You know, your mama used to say something whenever your daddy got too proud to speak. She'd say, 'Don't wait till the fire's out to wish you'd poured water.'" That evening, Daniel took the file folder Elena had sent. Opened it, read it slowly. She hadn't tried to save him with money. She'd found a legal precedent land held by indigenous. Stewards passed down through maternal lineage couldn't be seized under current Arizona foreclosure laws if tied to elder care or minor dependence. She had documented everything. Researched. Tribal law. Spoke to a preservation lawyer. It wasn't a bailout. It was a lifeline. From someone who'd listened. At dusk, he walked to the edge of the canyon, file folder in hand. The wind had calmed. He thought of Elena's face the night before she left, how she didn't cry, didn't beg, just looked at him with eyes that said, "Please see me, please. Believe me," he whispered. "I'm sorry I looked away." Down in the town square, someone had lit the fire pit early. Flames rose and fell like breath. From afar, they looked like stories waiting to be told. And maybe, just maybe, there was still time. Time to listen, time to speak, time to forgive. The glass tower in Phoenix shimmered beneath the noon sun like a mirage, sharp, gleaming, untouchable. Inside, the air smelled of lemon polish and quiet dread. Elena's heels clicked across the marble floor as if each step was rehearsed, but her heart hadn't caught up with the rhythm. Not since she left the house on the ridge. Not since Daniel closed the door behind her with more silence than words. The boardroom waited, filled with people in tailored suits and carefully measured intentions. Preston Halley sat at the head of the long table, his silver cufflinks gleaming like tiny swords. His eyes, cold as dry stone, swept over her without warmth. "Good of you to finally return," he said, no smile in sight. Elena took her seat. Spine straight, but not stiff. She knew the performance by heart, smiled precisely. Speak firmly. Never pause long enough to be questioned. "I'm here now," she replied. "Let's talk about what matters." Preston arched a brow. "What matters is that your absence caused a 7% dip in stock confidence. Our merger with Sinocor is in limbo. Investors are whispering about instability. And he placed a printed email on the table with theatrical care, have been contacted by Forbes, asking if Morgantech is still a company or a self-discovery retreat." Someone chuckled down the table. Elena didn't flinch. "Call it what you want," she said. "But while I was away, I saw a community where children fix broken bicycles with bottle caps and rubber bands. Where a man repairs fences with his bare hands because he promised his father he'd keep the land whole. That place reminded me what it means to build something real." Preston sneered. "We're not running a charity for rust and nostalgia, Elena. We build code, we drive markets. Sentiment doesn't pay dividends." There was a time when such a remark might have silenced her. Not today. "No," she said quietly, "but it pays something else. Dignity, belonging, legacy." Preston leaned back. "You sound like you've fallen in love with a barn and a bedtime story. You're the CEO, not a character in a prairie novel." Elena met his gaze. Her voice dropped, almost a whisper. "You say that like it's an insult." A hush fell. For a moment, all that could be heard was the faint hum of the Vehe, like a tired heart trying to keep time. Later, in her office on the 46th floor, Elena stood by the window watching Phoenix sprawl endlessly into dust and haze. The city looked tired, though it pulsed with ambition. Her reflection stared back at her jacket, crisp, lipstick precise, but the face felt borrowed. Elena raised a hand, brushing a lock of hair behind her ear, and noticed the faint scar still healing on her wrist. A reminder of the accident. Of Daniel's rough hands lifting her from gravel. Of Lily's small fingers braiding her hair. She hadn't told them goodbye. Her phone buzzed. "Marcus, I sent the updated asset proposal," he said. "Also, someone named Rosa left a voicemail for you. Said Lily's been quieter than usual." Elena's voice caught in her throat. "Thank you." She hung up before he could say more. That night, she walked past her penthouse kitchen without turning on the lights. The silence pressed against her chest. No thud of boots by the door. No little girl humming to herself. No scent of cedar or chili stew simmering on a wood stove. She picked up a mug from the counter, still faintly stained from morning coffee, and stared at it as if it might tell her what to do. The mug slipped from her fingers, shattering into 5 neat pieces. She sank to the floor beside it. Somewhere in her, the woman who once held billion-dollar contracts without blinking was weeping like a child lost in her own home. 2 days later, she was back in Copper Creek. She didn't tell anyone she was coming. The sky there had a different hue, less smog, more soul. Dust rose behind her tires like a wake in water. The town looked the same but different, a little more still, a little less forgiving. She parked the car just outside the diner and saw Rosa through the window, folding napkins. Rosa saw her and paused, then nodded once, neither warm nor cold, just honest. "Elena Morgan, Rosa said as she stepped inside, not smiling. Or do I call you Miss CEO? You can call me Lost, Elena said softly. Rosa tilted her head. You left. Without saying a word to the girl who cried herself to sleep. That girl thinks she scared you away just by loving you. The words hit like gravel to the skin. Elena closed her eyes. I thought I was doing the right thing, she said, giving them space. Letting him heal. He's not bleeding. Kariko, he's burying. Elena swallowed. Is he all right? Rosa paused. He's breathing. That's not the same as living. Before leaving, Elena reached into her coat pocket and placed a carved wooden bird on the counter. 4. Lily, tell her. I remember the story she told me. About the dream catcher tree. Rosa said nothing, only watched her go. Elena didn't drive to the house. She couldn't, not yet. Instead, she parked at the edge of the ridge where the desert spread endlessly beneath her, quiet and waiting. The wind picked up soft, dusty, familiar. She thought of the last night. By the fire pit, Daniel tuning his old guitar. Lily dancing with her braids flying. The sound of footsteps on gravel startled her. She turned. Daniel. He didn't speak, just stood with his arms folded, his face unreadable. I didn't expect, she began. He raised a hand. You left. I know. You let her think it was her fault. Her throat tightened. I couldn't stay. I didn't belong. That's not your choice to make, he said, voice trembling. Not when a child lays her heart on your lap and waits for you to keep it warm. Silence, long, real. I was scared, she whispered. Not of you. Of needing this place. Of needing ... you. His expression softened barely. He stepped forward slowly. I don't care about who you were out there, he said. But in here, he touched his chest, then hers gently. I saw someone real. And real doesn't just disappear. They stood in the wind, eyes locked, breath shallow. And then, with a voice just above the breeze, she said, Tell her I'm sorry. You will, Daniel replied, but not with words. From his pocket, he pulled out a drawing crayon, sunflowers and stick figures. 3 people, hand in hand. He offered it to her. She draws this every day, he said. Still leaves. Space in the middle. Says you'll come back when your heart stops shaking. Elena took the paper with both hands. It fluttered like a living thing in her grasp. I'm here, she said finally. And I want to be the kind of woman who stays. Daniel didn't reply. But when he turned to walk back toward the house, he paused. And this time, he didn't close the door behind him. He left it open. Just enough for her to follow. The night had folded over the mesa like a worn quilt, heavy with memory and dust. Down in the basin, flames licked the sky, throwing shadows onto the cracked sandstone. It was the annual spring fire gathering, the one night when the townsfolk of Red Cedar Creek left their griefs behind and sat shoulder to shoulder, humming the old songs, sharing bread, and remembering who they were before the world forgot them. Daniel stood at the edge of the circle, arms crossed, jaw set. Lily was off with the children near the drumming circle, her laughter drifting like bird calls through the night. She wore the small beaded pin Elena had made for her, the one with the hummingbird stitched in cornflower blue. He hadn't asked her to take it off. He couldn't bring himself to. A gust of wind carried the scent of piñon smoke and warm fry bread. Somewhere near the fire, Sarah Whitman began singing a tune only the elders knew the words to. Her voice, rough with time, cracked just enough to be holy. Daniel felt the tug of memory in his chest, his mother, brushing ash from her apron, whispering to him, some songs you sing not because they sound pretty, but because they remember for you. Then he saw her, Elena. She didn't arrive with fanfare, no camera crew. No black SUV, just a woman on foot, walking through the dust like she'd done it all her life. Her boots were scuffed. Her hair was tied back. She wore a simple linen dress in earth tones, and around her neck was a small pendant, a slice of turquoise caught in silver vines. People noticed. Whispers rippled like wind through dry grass. She came back, ... quote, someone murmured. Thought. She'd be on a plane to New York by now, someone else muttered. Maybe she's here to buy up the whole ridge. Daniel didn't move. Elena's steps slowed as she neared the firelight. She looked smaller somehow, more human. Her eyes searched not the crowd but one person. When she found him, she didn't smile. Just stopped. Evening, Daniel, she said, voice soft as a song you hum under breath. He nodded, not coldly, but not warm either. Didn't expect to see you here. I didn't expect to come back, she admitted. But then again, I didn't expect to miss a place I barely knew. He looked away, toward the fire. You didn't miss a place. You missed a version of yourself you liked better. That landed. He could see it in how she stood straighter. The kind of truth you don't dodge, you carry. Veronica Steele was there too, leaning against a nearby tree, arms folded, lips curled. Her voice cut through the night like a stone thrown into still water. Well, if it isn't the prodigal CEO come to taste the common fire. Should I alert your board you've gone full native? A few heads turned, discomfort flickering. Elena met Veronica's eyes, and her reply was quiet. You'd be surprised how much truth you can hear when you're not shouting into an echo chamber of quarterly earnings. Veronica scoffed. Sentiment doesn't pay shareholders. No, Elena said gently. But it feeds children. Fixes homes, keeps promises. Daniel hadn't meant to speak, but the words came anyway. This land remembers everything, he said, gaze fixed on the fire. Who spoke with care? Who came only to take? Who stayed when the harvest was thin? A hush fell. Even the drumming softened. Elena stepped forward, toward the council fire. She raised her hand to old Tom, the town's elder and keeper of stories. He gave her a small nod. She knelt beside the fire, pulled something from her bag, a folded cloth, and unwrapped it slowly. Inside, a medicine pouch woven in the style of the dine. I don't come with money tonight, she said. Not contracts, not headlines, just this. She held up the pouch. My grandmother made it for me when I was 5. Sighed. Put one thing in here for every year you're alive that reminds you who you are. I haven't touched it in 20 years, but I've brought it back. Because I remembered, this is who I was, before ambition drowned the sound of my own heart. The fire cracked. A spark jumped into the sky. Inside is a feather from my grandfather's falcon, she continued, voice trembling now. A cedar bead from the grove that was torn down to build the first Morgantech tower. A picture of my brother before the overdose. And a note from my mother, telling me to never forget the shape of my people's silence. She looked up then right at Daniel. I forgot Daniel. I left it behind. I left myself behind. But I remember now. The hush around them deepened. Lily broke it. She ran across the dirt, arms open. Elena. Elena caught her, knelt down to embrace her. The hug was fierce and tearful, the way children love with all of them. Daniel looked away. Then, slowly back. What do you want from us now? He asked, not with anger but weariness. Nothing, Elena said, still kneeling, holding Lily. Just a chance to help undo the harm, to start again, even if from the edges. Veronica stepped forward, heels crunching gravel. You think one speech and a childhood trinket erase what you left behind. You walked out on your company, on your responsibility. Elena rose, her voice calm but full. No, I walked out on the lie I helped build. A lie that says the worth of a person is their net value. That convenience matters more than community, that roots don't matter. She turned to face the gathering. If you let me stay, she said, I won't try to lead or fix everything, but I'll listen, I'll work. I learned my place the way my great-grandmother did, with hands in the earth, and a name spoken with care. Old Tom cleared his throat. His eyes, clouded with age, gleamed in the firelight. "Ain't the first time someone came home covered in shame," he said. "Ain't the first time we forgave. The land don't ask what took you so long, just whether you're staying." Elena bowed her head. "I'm staying." Daniel didn't smile, but something shifted behind his eyes like a window unlatched in a dusty room. Later that night, as the fire ebbed and the stars scattered overhead, he walked to where she sat alone, Lily asleep beside her. He knelt slowly. "You still have that hummingbird?" he asked. She pulled it from her pocket. "Always," he nodded, voice low. "Then maybe ... just maybe. It was never flying away, just waiting for the wind to turn." She didn't answer, just looked at him, tears balancing in her lashes. And in that silence, older than words, something whole began again. The wind that morning carried a different kind of weight, like the land itself knew what was coming. Clouds hung low above the buttes, copper-red cliffs veiled in a soft tension. Daniel stood on the porch, mug of lukewarm coffee in hand, watching the dust rise from the old road, not from the wind. Fun tires. Lily had just gone to school, her lunch in a cloth sack Elena had sewn by hand. Elena wasn't home. She'd left early to meet with the tribal council about the new education grant. And now the storm had arrived. 2 black SUVs pulled up, silent and too clean for these roads. Doors opened in unison, practiced and precise. Out stepped Martin Cray, suit starched and smile sharp as a blade. Behind him was Preston Hall, slick-haired, city pale, his eyes scanning Daniel's porch like it offended him. "Daniel Walker," Martin said, holding a thick folder. "We're here with final notice. You've had time." Daniel didn't answer. His hands stayed wrapped around the mug, but his knuckles had whitened. Preston stepped forward, a smirk tugging at his lips. "You should be grateful," Preston said, tone almost amused. "That dusty shed you call home sits on prime redevelopment land. Knox Resorts has already put in a bid. Once you're gone, it'll finally be worth something." Daniel met his eyes, silent. Then, like a windbreak snapping, he said quietly, "It was always worth something. Just not to men like you." Preston clicked his tongue. "Spare me the poetry. You're 3 days past deadline. We can move you out by force if need be." Behind him, 2 younger men stepped from the SUVs. Not in suits, these wore boots. And their eyes were hard. Raylan Cray, Martin's son, spit in the dirt near the porch steps. "You should have left when you had the chance, old man." Daniel's voice cracked, just a little, but it held. "My daughter sleeps in that house. You step 1 foot toward her, and I don't care who your father is." The air thickened. Silence, sharp as obsidian. Then a voice cut through it, soft. "Sure, and utterly out of place. She's not going anywhere." Elena stepped out from the trees behind the house, her long braid tangled from wind, boots dusty. But her posture was straight, and in her hand was a folder thinner than Martin's, but heavier somehow. Martin turned, irritation flashing across his face. "Miss Morgan, Elena Morgan," she said, voice like flint on steel. "CEO of Morgan Tech, majority shareholder of the land trust you're trying to bribe out from under him." Preston laughed. "Oh, now you show up? Back to play dress up with the peasants?" There it was, that sneer, that tone that stripped people of dignity with 2 syllables. Elena stepped closer, her boots crunching gravel. "You know what I remember most from our board meetings, Preston? The way you drone on about efficiency, cutting corners, buying out resistance. But here, people still look each other in the eye. Here, a name means something." Martin opened his mouth, but Elena held up a document. "This is an injunction, filed this morning with the tribal court. The land this house sits on was designated intergenerational. No commercial development can proceed without consent from all bloodline holders. Her eyes landed on Daniel, which includes Lily. Preston stepped forward, face flushed. "You can't be serious. I'm always serious," she said. "Especially when you try to bulldoze children." Raylene stepped forward now, fists tight. "You think you can just waltz in with your lipstick and your fake cowboy boots and—" Daniel moved faster than anyone expected. He stepped down the porch and stood between Elena and Raylene. There was no shouting, no raised fist. Just the quiet weight of a father's stance. Protective, unflinching. "This house," Daniel said, "was built by my grandfather's hands. Every nail in that wall, every cedar beam, every window Lily's fingers left smudges on, that's my inheritance. You can take your contracts and shove them into whatever hole they came out of." Martin hesitated. For a moment, it looked like he might relent. But Preston's voice cut through again, sharp and bitter. "You think this changes anything? You think a piece of paper and some backwoods sentimentality will stop progress? You don't belong here, Elena. You never did." Elena didn't flinch. Her voice dropped low, steady, and trembling just enough to make it real. "You're right," she said. "I didn't belong. I ran companies that didn't know my name, made decisions that never touched my soul. I wore suits tailored to hide how tired I was. But then I met a man who taught me that legacy isn't profit. It's memory. It's who will whisper your name when you're gone." Her eyes flicked to Daniel, and for a heartbeat, everything stilled. Preston scoffed. "You'll regret this. The board will have your head." Elena smiled, just barely. "Let them try." Martin turned, signaling his men back. But as he stepped into the SUV, he paused. His voice dropped low enough for only Daniel to hear. "You'll lose everything for her." Daniel didn't look at him. Not everything, just what never mattered. The engine started, tires spat gravel, and then they were gone. The wind shifted, softer now. The storm had passed, but something else lingered in the air. A silence that held more than absence, a waiting. Elena stood, arms at her sides. "I wasn't sure you'd want me back here." Daniel didn't answer at first. He turned toward the porch, stared at the carved post Lily had painted stars. On one summer night, his voice, when it came, was quiet. "You said legacy is who whispers your name when you're gone." He paused. "I want to be the one who whispers yours." Her eyes filled, not with tears, but with relief. Something ancient and sacred passed between them, then not a promise, not yet, but a recognition. That the worst storms don't destroy. They reveal. From inside, a small hand pulled open the screen door. "Daddy?" Lily's voice. Sleepy. Barefoot. Daniel turned, smile breaking gently across his weathered face. "It's okay, baby. The bad people are gone." Lily stepped onto the porch and walked to Elena. She didn't speak, just wrapped her arms around Elena's waist, cheek against her stomach. Elena touched the girl's hair, voice catching. "I missed you." And Lily said, with the simple wisdom only children hold, "I told the stars you'd come back." They stood there, the three of them, as morning light crept across the canyon. The porch creaked, the dust settled. Somewhere, a red-tailed hawk circled overhead. And in the stillness after battle, the healing began not with noise, but with the shared breath of people who chose to stay, people who remembered. The wind came down from the mesa that morning with an edge like flint. It sliced through the cottonwood leaves, stirred the dust along the front steps of Daniel's home, and carried with it a tension the land hadn't felt in years. The kind that came before a storm not of weather, but of reckoning. Daniel stood on the porch, his boots planted like roots in the dry wood, hands wrapped tight around a chipped coffee mug. He hadn't slept, not really. Not since the notice came stapled to the fence, post an official stamp from the bank, neat and heartless. Inside, Lily was packing her school bag in silence. Even a child could feel when the grown-up world was about to crack. The knock came just after 7. 3 short raps, businesslike. Martin Cray didn't wait for an answer. He pushed the gate open like he owned the place. Behind him, a black SUV idled. 3 men in suits. One of them held a file, another a camera. The third was just muscle. "You know why I'm here," Cray said, his voice flat as sun-baked stone. Daniel didn't move. "I read the letter. I didn't think you'd come like this." "Not with my daughter still home." Cray gave a shrug. "Eviction notices don't check the clock for bedtime stories." Daniel's jaw worked, his knuckles whitening on the mug. "Elena's got no say in this," Cray continued, stepping up onto the first stair. "She bought you time, not a miracle. You think she can waltz in here, make this a charity case, and the rest of us just smile and say thanks?" "Say what you came to say," Cray paused. "We're taking the house, Daniel. Today. You've got 2 hours." The words settled into Daniel's chest like gravel. He wanted to scream. But Lily was watching from the window. Instead, he asked, "Do you ever think about your own father, Martin? What he'd say if he saw you now?" Cray's jaw tightened. "Don't drag my family into your failure. This land, it was never yours. It's debt with a fence around it." That was when the second car arrived. Not another black SUV. This one was older, dusty, familiar. Elena stepped out, her boots raising puffs of earth. She wore no makeup, no armor of wealth. Just jeans and a faded jacket, hair pulled back. In her hand a folder. "Martin," she said, calm, measured, a different kind of steel. He turned. "You shouldn't be here. You're not the one who decides that." Cray laughed. "Still think you can play savior? You ran away from the boardroom to play house with the locals. Now look what it bought you." She climbed the steps, placed the folder between them like a drawn weapon. "You're violating Section 12 of the Land Restoration Act," she said. "This home sits on protected tribal territory. Any foreclosure requires full approval from the council and notice to the preservation office. Neither happened." Cray blinked. "That's not public knowledge." Elena smiled, but it didn't. "Reach your eyes. It is if you read the footnotes." Behind her, a few townsfolk had begun to gather Sarah from the cafe. Old Tom Rosa. No one spoke, but their presence was a quiet chorus of resistance. Cray tried to wave the papers away. "It won't hold. The bank owns the note." "No," Elena said, her voice suddenly quieter, more dangerous. "The bank owns paper. But this place, this story, these hands that built this porch, those aren't for sale." She turned to Daniel. "I'm sorry. I should have come sooner." He looked at her, something unreadable in his eyes. "You think a legal clause makes all this right again?" She swallowed. "No, but it might buy us a little time to make it right." Cray stepped forward, voice rising. "You think this crowd changes anything? You're just a rich girl with guilt and a clipboard." That's when Rosa spoke. "Her name is not just anything," she said, stepping out of the crowd. "And neither is his." Sarah nodded. "We remember who fixed our roofs when the storm came, who fed folks when the shelves were bare." Tom added, "We know who's trying to steal and who's trying to stay." Cray looked around, saw the shift in faces. The suits behind him suddenly seemed small in contrast. Elena turned to him one last time. "You want to take this to court? Fine, but you won't win, and you won't be welcome." Cray hesitated. Then, with a scowl, he turned to leave. The men followed. One lingered a moment too long, staring at Lily through the window. Elena stepped between them, and he looked away. The car doors slammed. Dust rose and drifted, like smoke after a failed fire. Daniel stood in the silence, the folder still in his hands. Elena didn't speak. Instead, Lily opened the door, ran to her father, and clung to his side. "Are we safe now?" she asked, her voice no louder than the breeze. Daniel knelt beside her, kissed her forehead. For now. Then he looked at Elena. Her eyes shimmered, but she didn't let them fall. I couldn't watch it happen again, she said. Another home lost. He studied her face. And for the first time in days, something cracked, not in pain. Possibility. You didn't run away, he murmured. You ran toward something. She nodded. I just didn't know what it was until now. Behind them, the crowd began to drift back to their lives. But something had changed. The house stood, still worn, still humble, but no longer alone. Daniel motioned to the bench on the porch. You still drink your coffee black? He asked. Her smile was soft now. Only if it's terrible, he chuckled. It sounded like a beginning. They sat in silence. Not all things need to be spoken. Some truths are understood in the spaces between words, in the rustle of cottonwood leaves, the creak of old steps, the hand that lingers half a second longer. Sometimes healing begins not with a kiss or apology, but with two people sharing. The morning light on a porch that nearly disappeared and choosing quietly to stay. The wind that swept across the mesas that morning carried a scent of cedar and dust, sharp, earthy, and ancient. It stirred the prayer flags Daniel had hung years ago along the fence, their colors faded but still whispering their blessings. He stood quietly on the porch, arms crossed over his chest, staring at the horizon as if the land might speak the answers he'd been too proud to ask for. Inside, Lily folded laundry with an intensity far beyond her years. Elena, sitting at the table with a worn leather notebook, didn't speak. She didn't need to. The silence between them was no longer thick with avoidance, but delicate, like something that could be rebuilt if they moved gently. The letter from the bank still lay on the windowsill, unopened. It had arrived that morning, hand-delivered by Martin Cray himself, one last act of cruelty before foreclosure would become law. At noon, the dust kicked up again. A black SUV crawled down the red dirt road like a vulture with headlights. Daniel stepped off the porch before it stopped. Preston Hall emerged in polished shoes that sank slightly into the earth, as if the land rejected him. Beside him, Veronica Steele's sunglasses reflected everything but revealed nothing. You have 5 minutes, Preston said flatly. After that, we start seizing assets. Daniel didn't respond. Elena stepped out, brushing her hands on her jeans. This land belongs to a sovereign citizen of the Navajo Nation, she said calmly. You'll have to go through the tribal council first. Veronica laughed. We already did. Money speaks. Louder than ceremonies. You bought your way through the council? Elena asked. We donated generously, Preston replied. Face it, Elena. You don't have power here, not in Phoenix, not in Copper Creek, not even in your little farmhouse fantasy. Daniel's jaw tightened. This isn't just dirt to us. It's where my father bled into the fields, where my daughter first learned to pray. A pity sentiment doesn't cover mortgage, Veronica snapped. But before anyone could speak further, tires crunched behind them. Another car pulled up, a battered Chevy truck with tribal tags and a single figure stepping out. It was Reverend Paul Grant, dressed in his ceremonial sash, his face carved with time and fire. I hear the wind's been restless, he said, nodding toward Daniel. And when it turns everything with it. He handed Daniel a folder. Inside were legal papers bearing the tribal seal. Elena read quickly, her eyes widening. These are injunctions. Filed through the Community Restoration Act, the Reverend confirmed. Based on recent evidence of predatory lending, fraud, and violation of tribal environmental ordinances. Veronica's face paled. Preston stepped forward. This is absurd. No, Elena said, voice low, steady. This is justice. She turned to Daniel, hands trembling just slightly as she offered him the papers. I had Marcus dig. The land transferred to the bank. Never followed federal regulation for indigenous land use. They never had the right to take it. Daniel stared at her. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want to come back here waving a check, she said. I wanted to find another way. One that didn't erase what this place means to you. Preston was already on his phone. Get me legal now. But the Reverend raised a hand. Your time is up, Mr. Hawley, and this land is no longer under your reach. Lily had come to the porch now, barefoot, holding a small corn husk doll. She looked at the strangers without fear. My mom says bad winds pass if you wait quiet enough. Veronica blinked. She's not your. Daniel stepped forward. She is. It wasn't loud, but it echoed like thunder in Elena's chest. The SUV turned around slowly, stirring up dust that caught in Veronica's throat as she slammed the door. When they were gone, Elena sat down on the porch steps, as if something inside her had cracked and let go. Daniel didn't sit beside her. Not yet, but he didn't walk away either. I kept hearing my grandfather's voice, she said, telling me money's just metal and numbers, but truth has roots. Daniel looked down at the dirt beneath his boots. Why did you come back? He asked softly. She didn't look at him. Because you were the first person who ever looked at me like I wasn't something to own or use. And because I couldn't sleep knowing you might lose this place for helping me. He said nothing for a long while. Finally, he knelt, pressing his fingers into the earth like a prayer. My father used to say a man's worth isn't measured by the walls he builds, but by what he shelters inside them. She turned to him. Then, and what if what you're sheltering is also broken? He met her gaze. Then maybe the wind brought it here for a reason. Inside, Lily was humming a lullaby as she set the corn husk doll on the windowsill. The old cedar tree outside the house rustled with a different sound, now not warning, not grief, but renewal. That evening, Elena walked to the bluff behind the house. The sky was washed in amber, the mesas glowing like old memory. Daniel found her there, sitting on a rock, her back straight but tired. I've been thinking about leaving the company for good, she said. He said nothing. Not to run from it, she continued, but to give someone else the pen. I'm tired of being the story everyone reads, but no one really knows. Daniel reached into his pocket and handed her something wrapped in cloth. She unwrapped it to find a silver and turquoise keychain, shaped like a hawk in flight. My mother gave it to me when I bought this place, he said. She said, when you meet someone who knows how to land without losing their wings, give it to them. Elena held it in her palm for a long time. Then finally, let the tears fall. He didn't touch her. But he didn't move away either. The wind shifted once more. This time it was warm. And behind them, the house weathered. Stubborn and alive stood waiting. The winter sun crept over the mesas, casting long amber shadows across the red earth. Outside the workshop, snow clung to the sagebrush like breath held too long. Inside, Daniel stood silently beside his father's workbench, now restored with care and polish, his hands resting on the same grooves, carved by generations before him. Elena hadn't said if she would come. She hadn't needed to. He could feel it in the way the wind shifted that morning, whispering through the cottonwoods with a sound not unlike the hem of her coat brushing past a doorframe. Her absence had weight, but so did her presence, even unseen. Lily was humming upstairs, a soft tune she claimed had come to her in a dream, though Daniel recognized it. Elena had played it once, late into the night, when she thought no one was listening. Outside, tires crunched snow. He didn't move. Not until the door opened. She stepped in quietly, no entourage, no tailored coat, no cameras. Just a long wool sweater, jeans dusted with road salt, and a softness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. She looked around, as if checking the place still remembered her. Daniel didn't speak. Neither did she. Not yet. Instead, she crossed the room slowly and laid a small box on the workbench. Wood, carved with river patterns. The kind only someone who remembered how to use their hands could make. "I never thanked you," she said. Her voice was lower than he remembered, not weary, just real. "For not asking the questions I wasn't ready to answer." Daniel traced a finger along the edge of the box. "You didn't know me answers." "Just the truth." She gave a faint, rueful smile. "And I gave you neither." Outside, a hawk called, sharp and distant. "There was a moment," Daniel said, "right after I found you. You looked at Lily like you'd forgotten how small a hand could be and how much it can hold." Alina looked down. She reminded me of a version of myself I'd buried under boardrooms and press releases. But I was still scared of being seen. A beat passed. "I was angry," he admitted. "Not because of who you were, but because I started to hope you'd stay." "I wanted to," she whispered. "You left." "I had to," she said, and her voice cracked just slightly. "Everything I'd built, everything my father built, was on the verge of collapse. The company ... the people, they depended on me." "Maybe," Daniel replied, "but we didn't ask you to fix the world. We just wanted you to mean what you said." Elena's eyes glistened. I did." She turned toward the workbench and opened the box. Inside lay the necklace Lily had braided from wild horsehair, and turquoise beads given to Elena the night of the winter gathering. "I couldn't take it with me," she said softly. "Not when I wasn't sure I deserved it," Daniel exhaled, slow. He reached into the box, lifted the necklace, and looped it around her neck with a care that made her close her eyes. "You came back," he said. "Not to fix anything," she replied, "but to stay broken here, if you'll have me." From upstairs came the creak of floorboards. Lily, peeking quietly, holding something behind her back. "Elena?" she asked shyly, then bounded down the stairs before waiting for an answer. The girl's arms wrapped around Elena's waist like a vine seeking sunlight. "I kept your toothbrush," Lily said seriously. "Daddy told me not to, but I knew you'd come back." Elena laughed through her tears. "That might be the kindest thing anyone's ever said to me. Are you still a princess?" Lily asked. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Elena knelt, brushing hair from Lily's cheek. "I used to be a queen," she said, "in a castle made of glass. But glass can crack, and queens get lonely." Lily leaned in close, whispered, "Then be ours instead." Behind them, the door opened again. This time it was Sheriff Rivers, his boots wet from snow. He removed his hat, awkward. "I came to apologize," he muttered, eyes on the floor. "I let outsiders turn me against my own people. Should have known better." Daniel nodded once, no words needed. Rivers cleared his throat, also cray, and the bank pulled out. "Turns out someone bought the mortgage outright and signed it over." Daniel blinked. "Who?" The sheriff shrugged. "Doesn't say." "Anonymous donor," but the paperwork came with a note. He handed it over. Daniel read aloud. "Some things should belong to those who love them enough to fight for them. No signatures needed." Elena turned away, wiping a tear. "It wasn't a gift," she said. "It was a debt I owed. You didn't owe me anything. I owed myself the courage to do something without hiding behind a foundation or a press release." He looked at her, truly looked, and saw. Not the CEO, not the runaway, but a woman who had come home with empty hands and a heart finally unarmored. Behind them, the town bell rang once, twice, calling everyone to the winter circle. "I should go," she said. "You should stay," Daniel countered. And so they walked together to the circle, Lily between them, holding both their hands. Around the fire, the town waited. Some smiled, some still whispered. But most had begun to see her not for who she had been, but who she chose to be. Old. Gloria Simmons stood, arms crossed, her voice sharp. "Nice of you to come back now that the press is gone." "I didn't come back for headlines," Elena replied. "I came back because I finally remembered how to live." Gloria snorted. And what? You expect us to forget who you are? No, Elena said calmly. I hope you remember. Her words rippled outward like a stone in still water. I hope you remember that I came back, not as a symbol, but as someone who learned what truly matters from you, from this town. From a girl with braids and a father who builds more than houses, he builds homes. A hush fell. Then, from the far side, Tommy the mechanic spoke. I remember the way she patched my roof without asking. Another voice. She taught my granddaughter how to code. Another. She repaired our irrigation sensor in the dark barefoot. Elena's lips trembled. Daniel took her hand in his rough, warm, anchoring. You stayed, he said. No, she answered, her voice nearly a whisper. My heart did. I just had to come find it. Above them, the stars blinked through. The clouds, the fire cracked. The old songs began again. And this time, Elena sang with them, not as an outsider, not as a savior, but as one of their own. The glass tower still stood somewhere far away. But in this circle, around this fire, under this sky, she had finally come home.